So my name's Niralee. It's very difficult to remember how to say it, so best way I find is I tell people it rhymes with Ferrari or tsunami or Diwali. I'm an architect. I've been practicing in architecture for just over 10 years now. I moved away from architecture practice 3 years ago, so now I work in a forensic investigation and expert witness consultancy. So I actually started my career in law, so I got a bachelor's in law before I moved over to architecture. Wasn't very good at law. Contract law when you're 18 is very hard to digest, but luckily for me, when I decided to move into architecture, I found a practice that was willing to sponsor me through my education and take me on without any experience. So I worked there for just shy of 10 years. I did all of my education part-time whilst working there, and I became the go-to person for designing high-rise residential buildings on top of something else. So I built on top of a tube station, on top of a warehouse that had a distribution centre attached to it. I built on top of an IKEA car park. And then, yes, about 3 years ago, one of my colleagues decided to move over to expert witness work. And after I'd Googled what that meant, about 3 months later, I said to him, can I come and join you? It was a great marriage between my architecture qualifications and my legal qualifications. So that's how I ended up at Hawkins. So my week at the moment is sort of split between doing actual investigation work and looking to win work. So when I'm investigating, it tends to start with research, reading all of the papers that I get given from an instructing solicitor, and that can be thousands of pages. Speaking to the solicitor, maybe doing an on-site investigation if there's a physical building or defects to see. I speak to other experts, and I also then write the reports. So when I'm writing a report, I try to include as many illustrations as possible because I think it's so much easier for someone to grasp technical subjects when you're looking at a picture rather than just reading words. So I spend quite a bit of time 3D modelling a building or a defect or from the drawings to see, to be able to show people exactly what it is that I'm explaining. And then the rest of the week I spend trying to win work, so that's a lot of marketing, vending, networking events, giving CPD presentations, and I also work on my own CPD, working on my own professional development. I think it's really important because we see as experts when something's gone wrong, when defects have occurred or when a dispute arises. I think it's really important that we then try to help stop those things from happening, you know, pre-loss risk management. So the most interesting matter I've worked on is not necessarily because the matter itself was interesting, but I did really enjoy the process we went through to conclude the dispute. So it was a residential building, there was a fire and the whole thing had burnt down. And so one of my colleagues, who's a fire engineer, was looking at how the fire had spread. And the architects, who were one of the defendants, had said that the problems were to do with workmanship. It wasn't to do with design. It wasn't their fault. The design was perfect as it was. So I was brought in to do that 3D modelling. So I took their construction drawings and built what they showed on their drawings and only what they showed on their drawings. And the result was this 3D model that you could sort of move around and see. That had holes in it. There was missing information where I couldn't find what the drawing was meant to say. There was clashes between walls and floors. There were all sorts of issues that proved that the contractor couldn't possibly have built just from these drawings alone. And you could also see these voids where the fire had spread. And that was really helpful in the mediation and in conversations with the other side's experts to show, well, actually, if you just use your drawings, this is the mess that is created. And our fire engineer had the firefighting imaging from the firefighters when they tackled the fire, and they include thermal imaging cameras. So we put together this presentation where we'd take an image from my model that showed a hole, and then the corresponding image from the thermal imaging camera, and you could see that there was a higher concentration of heat around where I had identified that there was a problem, and it was really compelling to show that actually these voids did contribute to the spread of fire. So the highs, I think, is what I describe as the aha moment. So you're busy investigating, you're looking through these reams of papers and you're trying to work out what happened and what went wrong. And then you find the email or the meeting memo, or even just the British standard that says this is what should have been done. And it sort of brings the whole case together, and you can sort of use that to realise what happened, to sort of think through how you ended up in this situation. That brings me so much joy to discover what actually happened. It's like winning at Cluedo when you finally realise when you've put all of the clues together. The hardest part, I think, is the balancing workload. You can try really hard to have a steady stream of cases and you've got a good amount that keeps you busy during the day, and then inevitably something comes up that you thought had settled, or they disappeared for a couple of years whilst they worked out what they were doing, and suddenly there's a stress to get something done and you end up working a lot longer hours than you had intended to. I think the most important thing to remember is that as an expert, your role is you have a duty to the court. So you need to be independent, you need to be unbiased in your reporting. There are other jurisdictions where the UK's civil procedure rules don't apply, but I think it's always good to keep those rules in mind, even if you're producing a non-court report. I come across experts all the time who don't have any formal training, so they don't keep good records of their investigations, they break privilege when we're talking about joint statements, and it's better for the court, it's better for your client if you're following these rules and these procedures. So I found that the Bond Solon course was actually really helpful in introducing me to the court and introducing me to the rules, and it helps remind me what my role is as an expert architect, that I am independent and unbiased, and my main role is my duty to the court.